As a new century dawned, the economy rebounded. Talk of revolution faded as political ambition took hold. A new objective was born, the attainment of better working conditions through parliamentary representation. And in 1899, the world's first Labor government was formed in Queensland. With the economy again healthy, union membership began to grow. The unions were back, this time for good. Following federation in 1901, the unions seized upon the newly created Arbitration Court to build wages and conditions. Australian workers became the first in the world to gain a living wage in 1907. But employer opposition had never been greater, and a dispute over the right of workers to join a union led to the first general strike in the world. Building workers stood shoulder to shoulder with comrades from other industries, bringing Brisbane to a standstill. Ultra-conservative Liberal Premier Digby Denham was enraged. Using the strike to improve his flagging electoral stocks, he banned all marches and brought reinforcements into the city. On Black Friday, February the 2nd, 1912, police baton-charged protesting workers, injuring dozens of strikers. With employers backed by the overwhelming resources of the state, the strike was eventually lost. The Denham government was re-elected, but 3 years later, the Conservatives were ousted and did not return to office for almost 40 years. Shortly after the strike, calls arose for the amalgamation of the building unions. Unions appointed full-time officials and membership rose sharply, but differences of opinion proved a stumbling block, and it would be another generation before amalgamation was considered again. The outbreak of war in 1914 significantly affected the building industry. A shortage of imported cement and steel caused widespread unemployment, and union membership again fell as a rush of patriotism saw workers join the war effort. Politically progressive union leaders recognised that the men dying in the trenches were from the working class. Social consciousness was increasing, and Queensland building unions campaigned strongly to defeat the 1916 and 1917 conscription referendums. During the 1920s, economic activity increased. Building unions returned to the pursuit of shorter hours, this time seeking a 5-day, 40-hour week and other improved conditions for workers. The campaign peaked in 1927 with a 10-week dispute and lockout by employers. The militant building unions tested the resolve of the government until the carpenters, bricklayers, painters and builders' labourers unions were deregistered. The strike was lost, and 9 years would pass before the 40-hour week was won in the building industry. Despite the defeat, building unions continued their fight for improved conditions.
There was things like travelling allowance, things like wet weather work pay, away from home allowance, all these things which the union were able to procure from it.
But just as gains were being made, Australia and the world fell into depression. Unemployment in the building industry reached 42%, and many unions were reduced to shells. Once again, workers had their backs to the wall.